So I'm just looking at the complexity of the soil structure in the terrarium. So there's a good few inches depth, maybe more. Hold on one sec. Figure it out. So from the bottom, so there's, I would say, 6 inches. And in some areas, touching 7 inches of soil in that, as in depth. So what's that in centimeters? Up to 18 centimeters, okay, depth of soil. So what does that basically mean? Well, I think the deeper the soil, the kind of more like physical processes and biological processes go on. So like thermal mass, nitrogen cycles, biogeochemical cycles, all of that kind of sciencey stuff. Won't go into it too much now, but yeah. I mean, if we just look, let's have a look now. There is fungus, right? So in the daytime, the temperatures in here get to like about 40 degrees on this side. Yeah. And there's fungus on the bottom. Now, you would think if, for that type of heat or light to be penetrating that ground, you would think there wouldn't be any fungus, but there is. That will probably disappear as we move into July, but then there will soon, in a few weeks, be monsoon rainfall happening in there. So whilst we're in a period of sort of drought now, once monsoon season hits, it will get more humid and more moist in there. So that will affect the kind of soil composition. But the last time I gave this a really good watering, as in like a thorough watering across the whole kind of substrate, not just in the front here, but throughout like the whole tank. Excuse the neighbours' dogs, guys. That was like back end of April when I did that. So I must have been, I don't know, 10 plus litres of water that I just watered in spot locations across the kind of whole terrarium. And then that moisture, so you can see that the top layer there, which is closer to the heat source, is very dry. Yeah. And then that will get even drier as we go into July. Okay. But you can see at the very bottom, even on the warm side, that there is still moisture at the bottom there. And as a result of that, there'll be gases produced, eco kind of gases, and it kind of creates the ideal environment for light and humidity for fungus to develop. Okay, so there's all sorts of processes that go on in that kind of soil that we don't see with a human eye. Yeah. So I would advocate for deeper substrates in. So basically, like, the larger the terrarium, the deeper the substrate. Yeah. Or if this was to be sort of, say, slightly bigger, say a 4x2x2, currently it is a 3 foot by 2 foot by 1.5 foot. Yeah. So if it was slightly bigger, if it was 4x2x2, you could still probably get away with that substrate being the same level. So basically, yeah. So I would advocate for a good at least 5 inches, 4 inches maybe, because the problem that I do have is these bits falling out. Hence why I've got my little posh shelf here to try and, I need to obviously. Those are just a few bits from opening and closing the doors. But yeah, Mr. Jinx does some digging, you see. He's been digging lately around by his cave entrance. And the bits pile up. So when I open the doors, yeah, we get a bit of a kind of landslide. But there we are. So yeah, I didn't even think of that when I was designing the cave, but there we go. Doesn't matter. Right. So there were some earthworms in here. So I'm shooting quite a few videos lately because there's been a lot of activity going on. And as we are, so tomorrow is summer solstice, so the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. But it kind of doesn't work like that in Pakistan because their day length hours are kind of, the sun rises for the last couple of weeks. The sun has been rising at the same time every morning, 5:06 a.m. Yeah, and it's been setting slightly later as we approach the solstice. But then during the solstice, the day length, so it sets at, like, I don't know, something like 7:18 p.m. over consecutive days. So rather than just one day being the longest day, there's several days which are kind of like the longest day over there, if that makes sense. And that's because of the position of the sun, the position of the earth in relation to the sun in the sky, and the kind of longitude and latitude, what do you call it, in the in relation to, like, the equator and that. So yeah. Anyway, that's basically it. But we do have, there's a couple of earthworms there. There's one just there. And there's lots of little roots around here. That area here is drier. That's on the cool side. So that is kind of dry. But then as we approach the center, it gets more kind of moist, and that's kind of like more humid. So, and then we've got the arid zone, which is dry at the top, kind of damp in the middle, and still moist at the bottom. Okay.